Welcome, everyone, and a happy new year to all of you. Welcome to another episode of the Balance and Empathy Show. I'm here today with Ashok from Canada. Welcome, Ashok. Again, a happy new year. And what do people do when it's the new year? They start setting goals for the next year. So that's what we're going to talk about today, goal setting. And what's really interesting about goal setting is that we do it every year. And if we should do it right, then we wouldn't have to set so much goals, I guess. So very interesting to talk about is how can you actually reach those goals? There are many people who set goals and then somehow they don't reach those goals. And that can have a number of causes, right? It can have to do with your self-esteem maybe, or maybe with your surroundings, or a number of causes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, if you're watching, please let us know where are you watching from. Put it in the comments because we really want to know where our viewers are based. So which country are you? Let us know, please, in the comments. And if you have any questions about goal setting, put them in the comments too, and we will do our best to answer those questions. Now, Ashok, I'm sure you have tons to talk about when it comes to goal setting. And in preparation of the show, we kind of talked about how self-esteem has to do with this and the imposter syndrome. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, I'm absolutely going to elaborate on that. But first, I want to make the point that when we're born, when we're children, we may or may not have goals, but goals are given to us. We have the goal to walk. We have the goal to talk. We have the goal to learn to ride a bicycle, to learn to do all kinds of things physically. And then when we go to school, goals are also put onto us from the outside by our education, by our teachers, and continually, hopefully, by our parents. It's only actually a little bit later that we begin to impose goals on ourselves. And when we impose a goal on ourselves, it's a mixture of a few things. It's a mixture of the ambition, I would like to do this, and then a mixture of your experience of what you're capable of doing. For example, a child might be very athletic, so they might think they want to learn to skate. Another child might be quite clumsy, so they may choose to draw. And so their goals might be different, but they're based on their ability. And then confidence. I think this is probably what we're going to be talking about mostly today, is that you set a goal that you think you're going to achieve. And it's very hard to find someone who sets a goal that they have no chance that they think they're going to do it. Like, I doubt I'm going to make it to the moon, but
would be nice though.
It would be beautiful, but
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like to set goals continuously. But I think what we're talking about really, and essentially for today, is how do we set goals as perhaps a later teenager and as an adult. And goal setting is the primary way that we elevate ourselves in our careers, in our relationships, but also in our relationship with ourselves. And I think that starts with what I call self-esteem growing moments. Now, our self-esteem is kind of like our bank account. And in our bank account, hopefully we've got at least two accounts. We've got a savings account and we've got a checking account. And what should happen is that as we put money into our savings account, it should gradually increase. And our checking account is kind of doing this because it's all up and down sometimes. Now, if you think about it, our self-esteem is the same thing. It's our savings account. We gradually increase self-esteem as we achieve things. Our confidence is our capacity to believe that we can do things in the future. So that's going to be up and down as well. So when we're talking about how do we set goals, we set goals by doing something that's likely that we can do it based on what we've done before. And then we need a lot of confidence to encourage ourselves that if we try that, we're going to be able to succeed in that. I'm just going to leave it there for a second to let you respond.
No, I think that's interesting. And we've talked about this before, right? In other shows, the self-confidence, self-esteem. It's the foundation for your actions. So when you talk about goal setting,
right,
it's your foundation. And whatever you do in life, you need a solid foundation for whatever you do. and having a good savings account filled with enough self-esteem, I think it's the basis of everything that we do.
Well, I kind of think of, I'm not good at tennis, but I know something about tennis, is that if you watch a tennis player, they run to where the ball is coming and they put their feet down very firmly on the ground, because your shot can't be better than your footing. You have to be grounded to do a good shot. Now, occasionally we're going to see some crazy
Exactly.
shots where someone's in the middle of the air. But the most important thing to get a good swing is to have your feet well grounded. And I think the same thing happens with self-esteem and confidence. You have to be grounded. And if you're grounded, the goal in this case is to put the ball over the net again, is going to be more, you're going to be more confident that you're going to be able to do it. But also it's more likely that you're going to be able to do it. And this is what a lot of people, that step, literally that step in tennis, but that step in getting themselves grounded, get inside yourself again, do a bit of breath. And if Rena was here, she'd say to do some meditation. Get
Absolutely.
grounded in yourself, because when you're grounded in yourself, that's when you're most likely to be able to be confident, but also to succeed in that goal that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. That's so true. You have to be grounded. You have to have that foundation, and I think that starts with you. You cannot be dependent from other people to reach that and to get that savings account. You really have to find it within yourself, and I think that's where a lot of people maybe struggle with. So if you do not have enough self-esteem in your savings account, how do we get that?
Well, let's have a full circle conversation. We get self-esteem by trying things and achieving things. So a lot of people say that they can't draw, for example. And I will say, well, let me show you. I'll give them a few simple tricks, and suddenly they've been able to draw something simple like a face, and they're surprised because they thought they couldn't. Then they tried it. Then they realized they can. Now they may not go on to become a famous artist, but when you believe, when you actually test to see that you can achieve something and you can, then that can improve your confidence. There's a lot of people, for example, who don't think they can swim. And I say, well, what's the problem? Well, I could drown. Yeah, but you need to learn to swim to not drown. Yeah, but I have to get in the water. I could drown. I know, but you need to get in the water to learn to swim. So this is a strange thing that you have to get into the very
Yeah.
place that could drown you to learn to swim so you won't drown. And this is the risk of confidence. It's taking that little risk that I think I can do this, so I'm going to try it. And there's always our shallow end in a pool. You don't have to get in the deep end first. And I think that's what people need to do. One of my tricks is to start off doing something I know I can do.
Mm.
And then once you achieve that, then just inch it up a little tiny bit, and then you can achieve more. The more you achieve, the more your self-esteem grows. If you try something that's not likely you can do and you fail at it, that's okay. Failure is fine. But you may not believe that you can try it again, so you won't try. So trying is the essence of building self-esteem and building confidence. But believing that your try is going to be successful, even if it takes you 100 fails to get to that one success, that's how you do it.
That's very true. And, when you talk about swimming, I'm in the Netherlands, right? And we are, for a big part, below sea level. So we actually start swimming lessons with our kids at the age of 4, and some parents even earlier, right? At
Yes.
2 or 3. So, and I think that's interesting because kids don't ask for it. Their parents just say, do it, go to swimming lessons. And when you're scared, just at the below end, and then you try. And that's how you learn. And I think trying is really such a good thing to learn new things and to build that confidence. But there's also maybe a part where people think they might not deserve the outcome. For instance, I won't apply for that new job, that higher function, because probably I'm not going to be the one that's selected. Probably that person is better than me, and I'm probably not that experienced enough yet. I probably don't deserve it, right?
Well,
How can we overcome that?
Tisha, you're bringing up a super important point, and that is comparing ourselves to somebody else.
Yeah.
And if we're trying something, um, and look over, we see somebody else who's doing it much better than us, then we might believe that, I'm not doing a very good job of that, so maybe that embarrasses me, or I feel ashamed of myself, and so I won't try. And I think that goal setting, we have to realize that people achieve things at different rates. Some people get good at something very quickly. Some people get good at something over time. But what's interesting, if you follow down the road, things often kind of level off. Someone who accelerated a lot in the beginning, and someone who, and this is the turtle and the hare story, someone who just took their time getting there, they may even overtake that person with the ultimate level of skill or ability or achievement that they have. So just because somebody else gets something quickly does not mean that you should not set a goal to try something similar in your own way, of course. And by the tragedy of people, it's also the beauty of people, is that we need each other to support each other, but we also compare each other to each other and sometimes believe that we're not good enough. And that's what this whole imposter syndrome is about, when we start
Yeah,
comparing
exactly.
ourselves to each other.
So basically, what you're saying is, if we're setting goals for the new year, and let's say the end of the year, I have this goal I want to reach. Normally you'd break it down to monthly goals, to weekly goals, and then to daily goals, probably, to get it done, right? But basically, what you're saying is, to overcome that imposter syndrome is to go ahead and just try it, fail at it, keep trying, and then in the end, you will reach the result that you want.
Yeah, but just to clarify, if we're going to jump into imposter syndrome right now, and it's an interesting thing. I've been talking about it a bit more recently, and it's not necessarily a psychiatric diagnosis, but it's been around for many years. It's just been called other things, like self-defeating personality, insecure people.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you very rarely see people with narcissism who have imposter syndrome. In fact, you just
That's
don't.
true.
Ironically, the people who have imposter syndrome are the very people who have a high self-esteem. Their self-esteem is good, but they don't have access to it. It's kind of like buried treasure. I buried it around here somewhere, but I can't find it. And then they're relying on their confidence, which is just the gumption to believe that what they're going to do is going to be successful. But it's very difficult to have confidence if you don't have self-esteem, unless you're narcissistic. And
Well, I wouldn't recommend becoming narcissistic to get access to the confidence, right? And to that self-esteem. And there must be another way.
absolutely. So a narcissistic person, who I've actually tried to help many times over the years in my practice, they're actually extremely insecure on the inside, but they hide that by looking very confident on the outside. Someone
Yeah.
with imposter syndrome is actually very capable on the inside, but they don't feel secure on the outside. And
Just the other way around.
it's just the other way around. And when you actually work with people who have imposter syndrome, um, they're always very capable people. They're often close to the top of their field or their game, but they don't feel that they can market that confidence very well. And that's why they often ally with narcissistic people who have no trouble talking about themselves and bragging about themselves, because I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that person who is kind of full of themselves,
Mm.
who may not have that self-esteem. So I think with goal setting, it's really important to take inventory. And what taking inventory means is that you kind of sit down, and you can do this with a friend or family member, or you can do it by yourself, and maybe just on one piece of paper, write out your achievements. And I call it the trophies and the ribbons on the mantelpiece. These are all the things that you achieved. And it doesn't mean if you haven't achieved a lot of things, because lots of things that we achieve aren't things that are necessarily tangible or measurable by society, like
Mm.
having a relationship that's longer than 1 year. Now, you might think, well, what? But there's lots of people who can't do that.
Right.
So being able to stay loyal and respectful and loving and kind and empathic in long-term relationships is actually a huge plus of an achievement. And think about it. Would you rather have a boss who has lots of long-term relationships in their life and cares about those people, or would you rather have a boss who can't keep a relationship longer than 3 weeks? Right?
Yeah, I know which boss I would pick. Absolutely.
It's telling. And so when we talk about achievements, it's really important to think about all the things that make up how we are successful as a human being. And success as a human being, in my book, includes the capacity to be loving, respectful, to be able to raise other people, to be a role model, to help people is a huge thing for me, to be resilient, and to help other people with their resilience. These are all, I think, extremely useful and noble things that describe successes as a person. Yeah, you can have a lot of degrees and you can have a lot of education, and those things they're useful for if you need to be a professional of some kind, and that there's value in that too. But you need more than
I
that.
agree.
You
I
need more
agree.
than that.
Oh, that's true. And I think, yeah, that's very true what you said. I think a lot of those accomplishments are often underrated because what is rated is what people portray themselves to be. Look at my fantastic life, you know, like on social media. Look me in my new car. Look at me in my big house. And oh, I have this, I have that, right? But that's like, how do you say that? Materialistic things, which is nice, but I don't think that's well, that's not the accomplishment I would look for. You know, because for me, like you, I really value to be able to help other people, to help them with their accomplishments, to help them move to a higher level in their life, to what they can be and their potential. I think there's lots of value in that. If you can improve someone's life, I think that's, well, that's about the highest value for me. And for me, that's for my children, right? To be able to help them and guide them. I have 6 of them, so that's quite a big job, I can say. Um, yeah, and I think lots of those things are often underrated by society, and how people
Well,
portray themselves.
what's fascinating about what you're describing, I think, in many ways, is also what I would call vicarious goal setting, or setting goals for others. We want our children. I have 3 children, uh, to do better than we did. We want them to succeed more in every way than we did, to be happier, to be more successful in their relationships, to have more things that make them feel comfortable. Hopefully, they don't have the things that they need that they can't acquire. And we want them to do better. And sometimes, if we make the choice that we have to do better over those people, especially our children, that may not be the right choice. So I think elevating other people is for me is key. But I also think, and I need to say this quite clearly, is that you need to get yourself to a certain place to do the best job of elevating people. And so there's a little tiny bit of selfishness involved in spending years, getting an education, or years working on yourself. If you know yourself well, and if you're well grounded, going back to our tennis example, you're going to be a much better place to help other people.
That's
And I
very
think,
true.
and for me, a goal is always to share, which means helping yourself and then helping somebody else.
That's very true. And I think what I get out of that is that you need to be able to love yourself and to help yourself before you're able to help others, right? You also need to set the right example, I think, and walk the walk. It's not just talk.
Well, I think so. Let's say that if our audience is wants to get a goal from us to them, maybe they can work on loving themselves more. And one of the ways that you can actually learn to love yourself more is by appreciating yourself as you are as a person, not necessarily what other people are doing. And by doing that, one way that you can do that is by doing mirror work. And one of my colleagues, Mariah Eddington, talks about doing mirror work. And what that involves is simply going into front of a mirror and then looking at yourself and seeing that you are lovable, that you are a good friend, that you are loyal, and that you are capable. And some of the ways that we can do that are so important for ensuring that we um, can see ourselves as we see ourselves. We often look at how we see ourselves through the eyes of others, and that is useful to a point. But sometimes it's really important to not listen to what other people say to you too strongly, because if other people are thinking negatively, and there might be a reason why they're doing that. They might be doing that because they want you to think well of them. And so when you're thinking well of yourself, it's important to be able to project that self to you rather than necessarily filtering that through other people. Our self-worth is measured by what we can do, what we can achieve, but also who we are. And who we are is the most important ingredient of our self-worth. And by knowing that with ourselves, we can experience that and know that our self is how we promote ourselves, but more importantly, how we promote our confidence. Hi, Tisha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you disappeared for a while, so I went.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I have some connection issues here on my end. Apologies, but I'm back now. So hopefully the connection will stay stable for this time.
So I'm not sure if we were streaming while you were away, but I kept going. And what I was talking about was doing some mirror work that Mariah Eddington, who is a friend of mine on LinkedIn, talks about, and that is looking at yourself in the mirror and giving yourself self-value, and doing that as an exercise. Now, one of the most important things to realize about confidence as well is that confidence is something that we can all market. And confidence is being able to market our self-esteem. So once you build self-esteem and you know that you have that, you own that, the next step is to market it. And by marketing our self-esteem, we are able to describe ourselves in a proactive way, just like coming up with an advertisement. So wouldn't it be kind of interesting if our audience would think of the task of doing a little advertisement for themselves? And that's one of the ways that they work on self-love, confidence. And then once we start practicing confidence, we actually start building our self-esteem. And once we start doing that, goal setting becomes much, much more easier. And for me, I like to set goals on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, and every 5-year basis. And I've been doing that since I've been around 15. And what's interesting about that is when you achieve goals regularly, you feel really good about yourself. And it's sometimes a goal could be as simple as I'm just going to get the grass done today, just mow my grass or get my dishes done. That's a goal too. How are we, Tisha? Are you stable now?
I'm stable now. Yes, I'm listening. So
Okay.
yes, I think that that's very wise, and I think a lot of people also use that, right? Those daily affirmations, where they talk to themselves, and they talk to themselves in a present tense, and mentioning the goals as if they were already reached, and that's apparently some kind of method to trick your brain into thinking it's already achieved, and then therefore sending out a signal that it's already done, and that so you're able to do that. And I'm very curious what you think about that.
Well, we have chatted about this a little bit, and I call this future empathy. And for me, future empathy is imagining as crystal clear as you can, as if you're actually doing precisely what you hope to do. So I ran a half a marathon a few years ago, and they
Wow.
hurt. I'm telling you, man, they hurt. So I like to run, but I like to run 5 and 10Ks. But what I did to get through it is I kept imagining myself crossing the finish line. And then I imagined myself having a long, hot shower afterwards. And as the more I kept thinking about that, I use this all the time when I do endurance sports. the pain in my body just kept disappearing. If it would come, I would think about the finish line in my shower. It would keep going. And then when I finally saw myself crossing the finish line, I actually have a video of me crossing the finish line that someone took. It was very similar to what I could imagine. And so I was able to be in that future place the whole time I was in the present place. And by being able to do that, I could see my success. I could see myself crossing that line. And I didn't do any high speed or anything. I'm just an old guy just trying to jog the jog, if you will. But at the same time, seeing myself being able to achieve that made a huge difference in being able to get the motivation to work through that and get that done.
And also self-belief in that you're actually able to do that and to reach that goal. And I would actually do the same thing when I still do it, by the way, whenever I have something that I feel nervous about, and then you have to do that, some kind of presentation maybe or whatnot. And then and also with school exams, and I would just imagine, I had already done it. I was finished. It went very well. And I was just sitting on the couch with a cup of tea and relaxing. And I would imagine myself sitting there, already had done the thing, the presentation or the exam. And then I would just feel my anxiety go away, because I would imagine myself in a successful place already. So it actually worked for me too.
Well, I think what for exam preparation, I think we probably were very similar that way. I would always over prepare. And I always thought that the worst thing I can do going to an exam isn't to not know enough, it's to be too anxious. Because you can know 90% of the material and be so anxious that you only know 60% by the time you do the exam. So exactly. I'd rather know 90% of the material, but be 100% sure I know 90% of the material. And that way I get access. And it's the same thing I was talking about before with self-esteem and confidence. If your self-esteem is good, you just have to work on your confidence to get access to your self-esteem. This is one of the key ways of getting your goals set and being able to achieve them, by imagining yourself succeeding them, by believing in the qualities that you have.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna look back, and I'm sorry I cannot see all the comments anymore because I lost connection. So if anyone has a question about goal setting, please put it again in the chat, because I cannot see all the comments anymore due to technical issues. Here's a question from Danielle Romain. Thank you, Danielle, for watching. How do you deal with time and
management?
Time management. How do you deal with time management if not affecting your goals? Well, I think you have to be very realistic, like you said before, Ashok, very realistic in setting your goals. Because like you said, if you say, well, I'm going to the moon, if you're not gonna realize that, then there's no point in setting that goal, right? So I think it's the same with time management. Give yourself time, to reach those goals, and don't press like 10 goals into 1 hour, because then you're setting yourself up for failure, I think. What do you think, Ashok?
There's a trick I tell my patients to do who have time management issues, is I say, do you have a smartphone? Most people do nowadays. I say, set the timer. And I say, set the timer. And I say, so how long does it take to do your kitchen? And they say, oh, an hour. And I'll say, set the timer and do your kitchen. And they say, oh, it's only took 20 minutes. How long does it take to drive to this place? And the more you can anticipate the length of time it takes to do things, the more realistic you can be about having the time to do things. So a lot of people will avoid doing something because they think it takes too long. And in fact, it doesn't. And if once you get handy to the idea of how long it takes you to do things, your time management skills will get much, much, much better, because you'll know how long. And if something does take a bit longer, then you can postpone that until you have the time. But a lot of things that you think will take a little bit too much time don't. I've invented the 6-minute barbecue workout, for example. So
a barbecue workout?
Yeah.
Oh, do tell.
If you're cooking something on the barbecue, most of the time you're just standing there. And you're just opening it up every now and then and flipping whatever's on there. So
Yeah.
I've got weights or rubber bands, that's, you can just do a quick focused workout right then and there with your weights, doing some movements, and people say, I don't have the time. Well, you're just standing there. Why don't you use that time to do a little bit of exercise? And people say, well, it takes too much. I need to go to the gym. I said, do you barbecue? Yes. Well, next time you're barbecuing, just get some weights or some bands and do exercises, and you can
There
multitask
you
a little
go.
bit, and that's how long that can take. So time management often is just is measuring how long it takes to do things, and it's good to know how long it does
Mm,
take to do things.
that's really smart. Thank you. I like the barbecue workout. That's so funny. And you're right? Because often when you're waiting somewhere, you're just waiting. And I'm always thinking, okay, so what can I do now? I can maybe work on my social media. I can do this. I can call someone. I can make a list. I can look up something I have to look up or whatnot, right? If you're standing in a line somewhere, might as well use your time effectively. So why not? That's very smart. So Sana Hassan, thank you for watching, is asking, and I think that's a question for you, Ashok. Can you please explain the link between self-esteem and confidence again?
So self-esteem is the accumulation of all the things that you've actually been able to succeed in, that you've done a good job in, and other people have said you've done a good job in. So if you want to try something, let's make it easy. Let's say that you want to pass a test in school. You get a good mark in it. Your family's happy. You're happy. That's self-esteem. Confidence. So self-esteem is about things that you have done in the past. Confidence is about something that you have yet to do in the future. Will I be able to pass the next test if I had done well in the previous test? And so as self-esteem gradually grows, which is the things that you've done that you've in the past that you've achieved in, your confidence is looking at the things in the future that you have yet to achieve. Now, the other link of it with self-esteem and confidence is confidence is the capacity to market your self-esteem. And so when we listen to people who sound confident, they will tell you all the things they've done that they've achieved and what they've done. They're marketing that self-esteem. People who have imposter syndrome, for example, have tremendous trouble marketing their achievements. In fact, they often feel shy or even embarrassed or don't want to brag. And so they undersell themselves, and the person who's good at marketing themselves will oversell themselves, and that person becomes the boss and the other person becomes the employee. And so for me, self-esteem is the things that you have achieved, and confidence is the things you have yet to achieve that you can market. And it's connected, because every time you have confidence and you try something, you're successful in it, it becomes part of your self-esteem. To actually grow our confidence over time, and we grow our self-esteem over time by practicing our confidence, achieving something, and then putting it in our self-esteem. And as long as both of them are growing, we can be a stable person and not get too far away from ourselves and feel imposter syndrome or narcissism.
Those are really wise words. Thank you so much for elaborating on that again, Ashok. So Sana, I hope that answered your question. We're actually reaching the end of the show, and the technical issues on my end seem to be returning. So I think it's good now to end the show. And then we will be here again on February 6th, and we will talk then about diversity and mental wellness in the workplace. And we will have an amazing guest with us on that show, Caroline Ribeiro Nelson. And she is a well-being consultant and really knows a lot about diversity and mental wellness in the workplace. So I'm really looking forward to talk with Caroline about this topic. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time. See you then. Bye.